Good morning. I'm Josh Hayes, and this is the Market Monitor for Thursday, November 6th. First off, I want to lead off with it's been 3 weeks now since the last Market Monitor. 2 weeks ago, I was sick, and then last week, I had an entire segment taped. I walked out of here, started to get the VO processed, and the whole world flipped upside down. So this time last week, the markets were down dramatically overnight following the meeting between Trump and Xi. And without any specifics coming out on the deal, overnight trade was not kind. And soybeans were absolutely down over 20 cents. Or I want to say around 23 cents at the time of the taping. And about half hour after I finished taping, right around maybe 6:30 a.m. last Thursday, everything started to turn around. So everything I had just said in the video was already outdated. I wasn't too concerned or negative about what took place between China and the U.S., but everything I was trying to recap of why we were down and why there was still hope, it all went out the window. Regardless, it's been a very eventful week since. It's hard to believe that was only a week ago that this rally with soybeans started. We've started to have some concern over the fact that China hasn't yet confirmed the details of the deal, but I do have an update this morning that is somewhat hopeful, still not concrete enough to assure us that the commitments that the U.S. has stated China has made are 100% for real and that there aren't any escapes from it. But it does help fill in the blanks. Some people have been wondering, now that our price has risen so high and that there is still a tariff in place against their soybeans, if China would indeed make the purchases that have been spoken of, the 12 million metric tons the last 2 months of this year and the 25 million metric tons each year for the next 3 years. The market has clearly been trading on the expectation that those purchases are going to be made. So I have a little bit more clarity to add this morning. So let's get started. All right. We now have what was rumored to be Chinese purchases of U.S. wheat are official. As overnight, it was announced that 2 cargoes have been confirmed. These are the first sales of U.S. wheat to China since October of last year. Remember that because we're going to come back to that in a minute. Weekly ethanol production surged to a record high, a weekly high all-time of 330 million gallons with 16 million bushels of corn used. That's well over the average needed to meet the USDA forecast. There was a brief period of time during the summer where ethanol production dipped. Had some people doing the math who thought we might not end up meeting the USDA forecast. We are firmly back on track, and U.S. ethanol production and use of corn is certainly looking like it's going to hold up to what the USDA forecast, which is certainly a positive for corn. Now on the bearish side, so this says that we have soybean traders still unclear. This has been how it's been, I'd say, the last 2 days of trade. We're down a little bit this morning. We'll get to that in a minute. But soybean traders still unclear as to the validity and the strength of China's apparent commitment to buy 12 million metric tons from U.S. by the end of the year. This is firm up because of the fact that China has recently made additional purchases from Brazil. Makes you wonder, if they're going to buy that much from us in such a short period of time, how are they going to keep buying from Brazil? There's also the fact that China still has a 13% tariff on U.S. soybeans, despite lifting agricultural tariffs on everything else. And the fact that our price has risen so high, it makes you wonder if maybe China has the ability to not make those purchases if our price gets too high. So hold on to that thought. Russia's grain union is considering doubling their export grain quota for the second half of this current marketing year to 20 million metric tons versus 10.6 last year. That would primarily impact the wheat market, given how much wheat Russia exports. So that's a little bit bearish per wheat. And getting back to this thing with soybeans, just read this morning that at a U.S. and China conference. There was a Chinese representative that they had a signing ceremony of indicating, return to purchasing U.S. soybeans, and Chinese officials talked about how trade relations are back on track. We're back to where we were as two countries cooperating, ready to trade at the volumes we traded before all this export battle began, this tariff fight. So what this does is it suggests that much like this wheat purchase that China just made, which we are not the lowest price wheat. Russia's much is below us, as well as I believe the Ukraine and possibly parts of Europe. But China made this purchase anyway, so it does suggest that China may indeed be ready and willing to buy our egg products to meet these commitments at a premium. So that would take away the concern that if our prices rose, above, say, Brazil's, as they have, that agreement will go out the window. So there is that hope for that. Moving on to the weather. In the U.S., we've got a cold blast now. I was very surprised to see the temperature gauge on my car this morning say 29 degrees. So we're in the midst of a cold blast, but it's going to be followed quickly by a big warm up next week. So we're going to have unseasonably high temperatures next week. Now, I don't think there's a whole lot of you that has still much harvest left to do, but for those who do, next week should provide ideal conditions to get wrapped up. I always want to take a look this time of year at Argentina and Brazil. Our first, let's start with Argentina. Still has not been really any concerning issues there. In Argentina, soil moisture is good for both corn and beans. Parts of Brazil got a little too dry, and there was concern there, although overall they've been having a great season so far. Those parts for the central and parts of north central Brazil. But all crop areas are set for rain in the next 10 days. So no concerns yet there. There is still budding chances of a mild La Nina, but that's something that isn't set for fleece forecast to set in until December. So they're not out of the woods yet, but obviously things have been going well down in South America thus far, in Ukraine and also parts of Russia. Rain potential is improving there for next week. Had been a little dry, but some of that concern is coming off the table. Moving on to our international cash prices graphic. You can see the big one here with beans. We are now above Brazil and Argentina in price. And then you add in the fact that we have a 13% tariff on our beans still in place from China. And that's where some level of concern was raised that perhaps, we've gotten too high too fast, and that would maybe perhaps give China out. It's not officially off the table that can happen, but there are signs pointing to the fact that China is making this commitment and these purchases will be made. It's something we are very closely watching. We've got a lot of profit in soybean buyback positions that we want to protect. So rest assured, it is something we're monitoring constantly. With corn, you can see we are still below Brazil, but a little higher than Argentina, with China taking tariffs off of all of our other ag products besides that remaining 13% on soybeans. That puts corn in a good spot because obviously, even though we're slightly higher than Argentina doesn't have a whole lot to export just yet. On the wheat market, you can see that we are considerably higher than what's coming out of Ukraine, what's coming out of Russia, and the Baltic states. That's why it's reassuring to see the purchase just now made in the last few days here and confirmed in the last 24 hours or so that China has bought our wheat. So you can see they are willing to pay a premium to meet terms and this trade deal, and to I guess appease trade, appease our trade negotiators and the Trump administration in this trade deal. So that's a very positive side. Overnight prices, you can see we are down across the board. When I did tape originally last week, we were down much more than this at the exact same time, and things turned around rather quickly. Um, uh, Overnight trade often does not mirror what we see once the day market opens. Perhaps that will be it again the case. Regardless, these prices are considerably higher than the last time I taped a market monitor, and we're very hopeful of the rally to continue. Again, with corn, we don't expect corn to be a fast climber, but we do think it's going to gradually climb into the beginning of next year. Soybeans, if we are to get a higher bounce, say up to $12, we'd want to see these purchases from China actually come to fruition, and then also perhaps some adjustment from the USDA on yield. Wheat market is trying to break out of a range it's been into for a long time. These purchases from China, if they continue, would certainly help. That's all for this week. Hope everyone is having a great week. I've got holiday season coming up. Hope everyone's in a position to enjoy the holidays and be rewarded for all your hard work. I will talk to you again next week. Thank you.